if you don't bet on yourself, like nobody else should. And so I'm not saying go and do remote closing. I'm not saying go and do anything in particular. What I am saying is when you feel in your gut that like you have something, you have an opportunity in front of you that could literally get you what you actually want, the only person you're doing a disservice by not taking action is yourself. Because how you show up for yourself is how you show up for everybody. So bet on yourself. Be in your own corner. That's what I would say.
All right, what's going on? Aaron here, back once again from the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And in this episode, we got something special for you. Now, about every 5 to 7 episodes or so, we'll bring in a team member from the RCA team, someone that works, with either a closer or setter, and just give their stories, and then also get really tactical about the things that they can do or that you could do watching this to see success within the remote closing industry. Now, the interesting thing about Matej, the guy that we're going to be talking to today, is he's actually the setter lead. He's the setter manager of all the appointment setters. So he's really the guy to talk to, especially in our team where we're, operating a really high level. He's the guy that you talk to if you want to become one of the best, if not the best setter in the industry. And I've seen, a ton of people come under his leadership and just absolutely crush it, from the teachings and call reviews and all the things that he does to pour into his team. So kind of a longer intro here, but I wanted to set the stage so you guys just see how valuable this interview is and how much you can learn as long as you listen to, all the way through the end. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this interview with Matej.
With that being said, Matej, how's the week been? How's everything going?
Dude, Aaron, you are too kind. I don't think I've had that nice of an intro on anywhere I've been before. So
let's go. I love it. All right, man. So you've listened to some of the snippets in the podcast in the past, so you know that one of the things that we do is we take a step back and really, learn more about how you got started. And I know you've been in sales for a little bit, but let's just take it back even before sales. Like who was Matej before all of that?
Yeah, so dude, before sales, I was just a little kid. I got out of my birthday's in December, so I was always like the young one doing things. And so I got out of high school at 17 still, and I got into college and I did an accelerated program. So it was 2 years to be done, and it was all about music production, audio production, business management, all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool. And I was doing that, and 3 months before I was set to graduate, I found out that my now wife was pregnant. And I was like, here I am 19 turning 20. I'm like, fuck. Not ready, not ready for that. But it kind of forced me to grow up quick because next thing I knew, baby was born and I needed to start making money. And so I started working for a telecom company, and I was just doing tech support. It was literally the only job I could get. I was working 4 a.m. It was terrible. But they started allowing us to do upsales. And I've always been I've always wanted to make the most money possible and be the best. I have this, okay, people are going to hate me for saying this, but I have this saying. I have this saying. It's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. I genuinely have this feeling inside that I'm better at most things than most people.
Yeah.
And it's
Jeff,
funny because
I have to clip that out.
No, it's okay. Leave it. But here's the thing. I'm a really fast learner. So it's funny because whenever I pick something up and I do really well, I look at my wife and I'm like, huh? Anyways, so you'll see the relevance here. So here I am at the tech company doing tech sales. I'm trying to be the best. There's a bunch of metrics that you can meet, KPIs, and then you can exceed and you can become best on team. I wanted to become a team lead, the fastest team lead ever. That was my big goal, Then they started to let us do upsales. So whenever somebody had a problem that you could fix by selling them something, you could sell it. And they would give you $5 for every upsell. And I had the most upsells out of everybody. Never did any sort of sales training. I just was kind of natural at it. I make people laugh, and it's this whole thing, And then they didn't pay me any of the money they owed me, which is kind of frustrating. Yeah, so I was like, okay, this is no bueno. It's been 8 months. I didn't see the upward momentum that I needed. I had these big dreams and visions of what I wanted. And but baby,
Yeah.
So I quit that and I jumped into a software sales gig. I did that for 5 years. I was a sales trainer. I grew from a junior account exec to a regular account exec to the sales trainer on the team. And so here I am. I think I know everything about sales, and I knew it was good. But dude, I was kind of capped at $70K a year, and I knew it was funny because at the time I was thinking so small. I had my big goal was if I could get to 80 grand a year, everything would be perfect. That was like my big dream, you know? I was like, dude, 80K, I did all the math. I like broke down all the finances. I was like, dude, 80 grand, I'm living the life, you know? Turns out that's not true, by the way. And I was there again, upper momentum mobility kind of started to stagnate, but I was like, I was never really looking for anything else, even though I knew I wanted more because I was safe, you know, like everything was comfortable. I finally got to a point where I could pay my bills. I was like way in debt. So I had been paying my bills finally. Haven't really been able to save a lot of money, but I'm getting by, you know, like food on the table, house overhead. I don't do extracurricular activities, but like everything's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like stuck in this life because I could go try something new, but then like what? You know, like then what if it fails? And then my wife's not working because she's taking care of the baby because then we had another baby. And like now it's this whole thing, right? And then all of a sudden, the 2 months before COVID, the company sent me a message while I was eating dinner. It was like 7 p.m. And they said, hey, don't come to work tomorrow. We're closing the doors. Out of the blue. It was like Sunday night. Monday, company didn't exist anymore. They went bankrupt. Just overnight. And I was like, what the fuck? I remember like literally sitting there, like I was like crying because I didn't know what to do. I was like, I didn't have money saved. Rent was due in like 3 days. I didn't get my last paycheck. I didn't get any severance because they didn't exist anymore, so they didn't have to pay it. It was this whole thing. And I was like, shit. I paid off rent because it's like literally with the last money I had. 30 days was looking for a job. COVID had then hit and nobody was hiring. And so I literally moved my wife and 2 kids into my mom's basement. And that was a big blow to the ego. That was a rough one for sure. And while I was there, I kind of realized that like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to like actually try something that I never would have tried ever in any other circumstance. And I started selling insurance, which was 100% commission. Never done anything 100% commission before. Thought I was great at sales because I'm the sales trainer. You know what I mean? I was a sales trainer for like this big tech company. Like, what do you want? Get into insurance sales, flop miserably. Like I was making like 3K a month, not even.
Oh man.
And like what was shitty was you had to like call all like these people that were it was basically like a bait and switch to call people that didn't really want insurance, to try to convince them to get on the phone with you, to then get on a Zoom call with them, to try to sell them, to, you know what I mean? It was just, and then you have to like support them all. It was like this whole big process and it sucked. And what I realized though was that what was interesting about it is however much money I generated for the company is how much money I made, is like directly proportionate to how much money I made. And so what I realized is like, hey, if I could just get actually better at sales, if I could swallow my ego and take all this like knowledge of sales that I have and put it off the side and like just get better, I'll make more money because like I have unlimited potential. You know? Yeah. And so I was looking into sales courses. I bought like a small, like $2,500 video sales course, went through that, started to get better. Now my income bumped from like 3K to 4K. And I was like, oh, it's working.
Yeah,
you know, it's working, you know? And so my income bumped to like 4K. And then the next month it was like 4.5, 5K. And then it kind of bottomed out. And I was like, okay, I need more training. I got to get even better, you know? And so I got roped into a $15,000 US sales training mastermind where it literally was just like, we have these group coaching calls every single day of the week. And then you have like a content you can go through. That was basically it for 15K. And dude, it was really good, to be honest. Like I got a lot out of it. I grew my income to like $8,000 and then I like topped out because basically it was all up to my time. Like I was still spending too much time doing all the stuff that didn't actually make me money. You know what I mean? Selling was only like 2 hours out of my 8, 9, 10 hour day.
Yeah. Well, at this point, just curious, at this point, are you still in the basement?
Yeah. This is all in the span of like 9 months. All this like massive fucking shifts. Yeah. So yeah, we're still in the basement. And I'm like, dude, if I want to get out of the basement, I got to make more money. You know what I mean? I've already spent a shit ton of money though, and I'm bottomed out. And I realized that like the only other step I need to do is get into a different offer. Because like, to be honest, like I was kind of capped out by like all the non-selling that I was doing, more or less. And so I got out of that. I linked up with Cole because I knew Cole was recruiting salespeople at the time. And I was like, hey, Cole, I was like, I've been through this training. Like, I'm really good at sales. Like, can you put me on one of your clients' offers, you know? And then they sent me a message, and I interviewed with Jacob at the time, who and he put me on an interview with Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is weird. I was like, Mitchell works with Cole. So I did an interview with Mitchell. And then Mitchell's like, okay, I want you to interview with Cole. And I was like, huh, what's going on here? You know?
Getting tossed around.
What is happening? So I got on with Cole, and he's like, hey, man, so like, just to be completely candid, like, I don't have any closing positions. We did like a mock call or whatever. He's like, honestly, that was one of the better mock calls that I've had in a long time. We don't have any closing positions open at the company, but I really would like you to be part of the team. And so if you're open to coming in starting as a setter for this new offer that we're launching, which is RCA, he's like, it's going to suck. It's not going to be as nice as closing. You're going to be grinding for the next 12 months at least. But I promise you, you'll learn way more on this offer than you will on any other offer in the whole space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fuck it, let's do it.
Okay, dude, there's, cause that's going to transition to like a lot of other like conversation about like RCA and stuff, but I have a lot of questions. But yeah, I love like, you helped me out a lot because most people I usually have to like kind of pull it out of them, but you just like laid it all out, which is good. Which should probably
storyteller. What do you expect?
Exactly. All the best salespeople are just kind of giving me everything. I'm like, all right, let's go. Okay, so I want to go back to what you said. There's so many like parallels with your story and like mine, by the way. Like I've told this story before on the podcast, so some people might like think that I'm like redundant with it. But like when I gave like my last $1,000 to Brian when he had his growth offer, an agency, and I like it's kind of same thing as like I was working a job, and then they actually found out that I had the agency, and they're like, all right, you can either like do the agency or you can work with us. You can't do both. So I left there, and then I started my agency, gave my last $1,000 to Brian. And then a week later, yeah, and that was like, I'll never forget. It was the day before Thanksgiving in 2017, and literally the next week was not only rent was due, but I found out that my wife, or at the time, my fiance was pregnant. So it's like it's just massive like kick in the butt that you like. I kind of needed at the time because like before I was like kind of like dabbling in like making calls and whatever, but it was just like, oh shit, like this is happening, like. I either make this happen or I can't afford diapers. Like that's
exactly
the ultimatum that you're in. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that like there's a lot of parallels there. But one thing that you said about like the quote that you gave of just like having that mentality of like, I'm like the friggin' best at this thing. Where do you think for you that came from? Like was there something specific?
I think that's just an innate feature of myself. It's one of those things that like me and then my youngest sister, my only sister, but the youngest of the family, have the same thing. We're like, we just want to be better. And it's just this weird, like, I think it comes from just having like maybe the most competitive spirits of anybody I've ever met in my life. And that might just be my competition talking, but I feel like I'm also the most competitive.
Yeah, well, and I think it's not even something that's like that we haven't heard on this podcast. And I think it's funny because like as like high performers, if you want to call it that, or like salespeople or whatever, it's like everyone has this like competitive spirit, and it's really I think what sets the people apart of like the ones that like crush it versus the ones that kind of like are okay, because it's like it's just like you said, an inherent like I need to be the best at this, right? It's like same thing with me. It's like anytime we're on marketing meetings and someone's like, oh, your ad's not working, I'm like fuck, now I'm going to do like 9 more to make sure that I outperform next time,
Yeah.
So it's like it's something that always lives there, but.
You know what's the weird thing about it though? Just to add on it.
Yeah.
I think that like that's definitely a function of like who I am, but another function of who I am that almost seems completely counter to that is that like a lot of the time, and this is something I've been working on a lot lately, but I have like a crippling insecurity about like my ability to perform at the same time. So like I think I'm the best, but also I low key I'm like, but what if I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
And it creates this like interesting dynamic within like me to like kind of continue to push and grow and try to be better, because it's like I'm scared of not being good enough. And so like I drive myself to be the best that I can.
Yeah.
And I think it's like it's this weird like paradox, but it's been working in my favor anyways.
Dude, it's literally the exact same thing with me. Like I know, and I think it's just the fact that like I know that I'm good at what I can do, and I know that I have like a good skill set. But it's again like that almost like call it the voice in the back of your head that's always telling you like, you're not good enough. There's other people that are better than you. But it's like, I think if that wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. You probably wouldn't be here, right? You would accept mediocrity, or, that's a kind of intense word, but kind of the same thing. So one other thing that you said, and why I asked like specifically, like, were you still living in the basement, is because, I mean, you had to leave the house, you moved into the basement, and you were at this like relatively new job, but you still continued to invest in yourself when you could have, use that 15K to then like move out of the basement. What was like?
Oh, I didn't have 15K, bro.
Oh, well, I mean, but the other thing
about it.
Yeah, it was probably like a payment plan, but still, it's like,
no, it was just credit. I just took out a big fucking line of credit, which is scary, dude. It was scary. But to your point, like the first thing I invested in, I used the money that we had been saving up to leave. And for me, it was just like, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? Right? And this is actually something I take people through when I'm trying to close them as well. It's like, think about it in this way. It's like, okay, let's say you don't do this. What happens? Okay, I go back to my shitty job that I fucking hate, that I work so many hours, I don't see my family, and I finally retire at the ripe old age of 70, because that's when I can finally afford to do it.
Yeah.
Right? That's like if you don't do this. Okay, now let's say you do this and you fail. What happens? You go back, you have 10K in debt, 20K in debt, like whatever the program you're investing in, right? Mm-hmm. But you go back to your shitty job, working your shitty hours, or you don't see your family, and you retire at the ripe old age of 70 because that's when you can finally afford to do it. It's the same fucking outcome. The only difference is if you actually think that what you're possibly investing to could get you where you're trying to go, now you have the chance that looks different. And that's kind of like my mindset. And it was like, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, well, let's say I invest in this program and it miserably doesn't do anything. Let's say I only get 1% better. My income goes from 4K to 4,500. Okay, cool. Now I'm 15K in the hole. It's going to take me an extra 4 months to get back to where I'm at now. And then from there, I can get out in a year from now. Or this could go really, really well. This could 10x my sales skills. I can 10x my income and I can get out of here by fucking 2 months from now.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like what's better? What's the riskier thing? I feel like the riskier thing is not taking action when you feel like it'll work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the exact answer that I was kind of looking for, was, or not answer, but just like, that mindset shift and the difference between someone that's like, that knows that it's an investment versus a cost, right? Like a lot of people, I feel like if they're not in that investment mindset of knowing like this money is for something that is going to make me better, is they almost look at it as like an expense of like, oh, there goes another 1,500 or 2,000 or whatever the cost of the program is.
Yeah.
Because they either maybe they don't believe in themselves, or they just don't see it as that investment in themselves. So yeah, that's huge. What was like, because I think a lot of people listening to this too is, you obviously have a wife and kids now. What was like the, I guess, conversations that you and your wife were having of like, oh, like we can either, we're going to go move to this basement and I'm going to do the sales thing. And it's 100%. Like, what were those conversations that you were having to like kind of have her on board too?
Dude, yeah, I'm just so blessed to have the wife I have, because like she is just the most supportive person that I've ever met in my life. And she has like complete faith in like me doing the right thing, that basically the conversation was, hey, I know we're living in my mom's basement. I know you're not getting along with my parents very well. I know this isn't like the easiest thing for everybody here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the little bit of money that we've saved, I'm going to invest it into this. I didn't say I'm going to. I said I would like to invest it into this program because I genuinely believe that this is what we need to like not only get out of here, but like literally change the trajectory for like the life we've been on. And she was just like, like, if you think that this is what you need to do, then you need to do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And that's it, dude. I know a lot of people don't have that, and it makes me sad. Like, it makes me really sad when I hear people like get kiboshed so hard, where like they just don't have anybody in their corner and their spouse is like, no, you're not doing this. It's like, breaks my fucking soul, just because like I know like how much it meant to me to have the support of her. But to be honest, it was my money. So I probably would have done it.
There it is. There's Matej coming out. Dude, that's huge. And like, yeah, I think where a lot of people go wrong, and a lot of this is going to come down to like your own self-reflection, is if you're in a relationship and your wife, spouse, whoever, like, partner, if they're telling you no, it's probably not because they don't believe in you. It's probably because there's like decisions that you've made in the past, or decisions that you made in the past, but then also like haven't acted upon it, right? I'm sure you guys talk to like a ton of people where like it's their 15th program they've jumped into, and they're in a ton of debt. So a lot of time, like if you guys are like, anyone listening to this is in that situation, whether it's remote closing or the next thing that you jump into, like just kind of look internally and figure out like, why is my spouse, partner, wife, whoever not as supportive of this? And what can you do to like make sure that if you were to make your next investment, like more often than not, a lot of these courses, you're not getting scammed. It's just like you're scamming yourself, right? You're not doing things that you need to do to see success in those,
Yeah, often I ask people on those calls is like, why would this be different? You know what I mean? Like I hear them, oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, doesn't work. It's like, okay, why would this time be any different? I haven't followed through. Why would you follow through this time? Because like if you don't have that like big why, that big reason behind it, it's like, dude, you're not gonna, no offense, but it's just not gonna happen. Like if you're comfortable and happy with like the next 10 years looking like the last 10 years, it's like you're not gonna grow. It's impossible. You have to first make that decision like, hey dude, I don't want to be here anymore. We want to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can grow from there.
Yeah. I think that could definitely help a lot of people. Well, actually one last thing on that. What would you say to someone that, maybe is in that situation? Like if they are in that situation where they're like, my partner, or my husband, my wife, my spouse, whatever, if they say, well, I just don't feel supported, what would you say to that person?
Oh, what would I say to that person? I mean, it kind of depends. Like, will this actually work for you? I think 9 times out of 10, when somebody is like not supported by their spouse, it's because they low key don't support themselves, or they don't think that like they can do this. Like they don't think that this will work for them. So if you feel like it's the right thing and you can back yourself 100%, go sell your spouse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. If you're like, hey, I need to do this because I don't spend time with the kids. I don't get to see them because I'm working all day long. It's really important to me to create these bonds with them, because when I was growing up, I didn't have great bonds with my parents, and it's super important that I don't end up the same way that my dad is. And I really think that this is going to be the path that gets me from here to a place where not only can I do that, but I can spend more time with you. We can go on vacations. We can have a better life. And the reason I think that is XYZ reason. And if your spouse doesn't support you at that point, like, I don't know. You got to do some internal reflection.
We're not relationship coaches, so we'll just
at that point you go see I don't know, relationship coach.
If it's Matej, do it anyway.
And just do it anyway. Just go open like another credit card that they don't know about, and then just pay it off with what you earn in the program. But like, if you're gonna do that, you can't fail. You know what I mean? Like, so if you do that, like, you got to make sure it works.
And some people that helps them. It's like they kind of need that like fire under their butt. But okay, so let's now we'll fast forward a little bit. So you have the conversation with Mitchell and then Cole, and then you come on, and then he tells you, okay, you're gonna have to spend the next 12 months, and it might not be like best, but you're gonna learn a shit ton. What happened next?
Yeah, so well, I mean, I said yes, and that was like a big thing for me, because, and I think the reason I did it is because the program that we're talking about is the Remote Closing Academy, and I was super intrigued by this idea of like people going through the same journey that I went through, but like in a condensed, more like intentional environment. So like this process that took me a year is basically getting going and like blown down into like 2 to 3 months. You know what I mean? And so I knew that I could talk about it with a ton of conviction, because I was like, hey, like, I'm not the smartest, tool in the shed. Like, there you go. Exactly. And so like, if I could do it, dude, like, you can do it. It's not that hard. Right. And so I had a ton of conviction about the offer. I thought the offer was great. I've been through some of Cole's training. I knew his stuff was legit. So I was like, yes. That would definitely let me on your team, kind of thing. So I was the very first setter for RCA and STA at the time. And dude, it was crazy because like I came in with like 0 processes, like no systems, no nothing. It was basically like, here's our closer training, go set people. I was like, wait, what? And so like, dude, it was basically just me figuring out like how to do shit. And then like a couple weeks later, Jared came on the team, and then it was just me and Jared for like the first 4 or 5 months, just like maybe 3 or 4 months, just like literally building systems, testing things, finding out what works, finding out what doesn't work, trying new copy, trying like, first I'm going to message them on Facebook, then I'm going to dial them, this time I'm going to dial them, and then I'm going to message them, I'm going to text them. Like it was this whole thing. And we were just like trial and error, trying to fix it and figure out how it works. And we got pretty damn good pretty quick. Jared had some setting experience, so he did better than me right off the hop. That's just because I was like a little behind in my experience. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's only why. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason, dude. Other than that, I would have been better. I gotta keep the mind rolling, you know. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so we built all this stuff. We started getting really good. Started making a bunch of money. Then I was like, Brian, I want to be a closer, and he's like, I don't have space for a closer right now. You're not ready. I was like, okay, set. Brian, I want to be a closer. We now have space right now. You're not ready. Okay, no worries. Set. Hey, this guy could probably close right on this call. Hey, do you want to buy? Yes. Dope. Cha-ching. Money in the bank. Set. Brian, can I close? Oh, by the way, I closed somebody last week. I just gave it to Jacob, but really I closed that one. Oh, no, you're not ready yet. Okay, no worries. Head down, work. So like basically this was the process. And then this like magical golden opportunity came on because they hired a closer who ended up not doing really well. And we were like 10 days away from the end of the month. And we were 2 weeks away from the end of the month. And Brian called me while I was camping. And I was like, yo, what's up? He's like, dude, this new closer's not working out. I basically just worked out all of our projection, our pacing for the month, and we're going to miss by 10 units. He's like, if I let you be a closer, can you hit 10 units in the next 2 weeks? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I can. Put me in, coach. And so he put me in as a closer. I smoked 10 units in my first 2 weeks. Homeboy went to be a setter, and then he quit because he didn't like setting, which is understandable. It's hard to go from closing to setting sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I just became a closer, and that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like seize the moment. Like you just got to work your ass off. I was doing like coaching calls for free. Like I wasn't getting paid for them. I was running 2 coaching calls a week. I was setting everybody. I would close people occasionally, so that when an opportunity came up, I'd be like the obvious choice. You know, it's like, oh, we our closer's not working out. Like, who could we possibly put in and might make it work? Obviously, Matej. You know, who else is it gonna be?
And that's such a huge mindset to have too, because I think a lot of people are in almost like the inverse, especially like, I mean, I won't blame it on like, you know, call it Gen Z or, you know, millennials or whatever you want to call it, because we're technically in that spot. But it's like, I think a lot of people have that. They bring the mentality of, I deserve this and I should be able to do this because I've been doing this for a certain amount of time. And then when they like get the kind of the reality checks in, they're like, oh wait, maybe I'm like not that good and I'm not like upgrading into it. So what was the mindset for you as you're going through and you're like, I'm busting my ass. Hey, Brian, can I do this? No, you're not ready. Like what kept you motivated between all those things, and how, I guess what drove you through?
Dude, I just wanted to win, and I had my humble pie. You know what I mean? Like me going from a place of being like a sales trainer, and then like that company disappearing, and then starting in insurance and realizing that I actually suck. Dude, like I've ate my humble pie, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, I just sort of had this mentality that like, if I feel like I'm in the right boat, you know, I feel like I'm in the right place, then all I need to do is like work my ass off and the results will come. Dude, like I literally, as a setter, after like month 3, I stopped looking at my commission tracker before payday. Because I was like, dude, I know if I grind and I like bust my ass and I do everything I need to do, like I'll make enough money. Like the money will come. I'm not worried about it. What I'm worried about is like, become the best, make a big impact so that it becomes obvious that like you should get the next opportunity. And like, you don't got to pay me. That's fine. I'd rather go in with the mentality of like, hey, I'll work for you for free for fucking 6 months. And then after 6 months, you pay me what you think I'm worth. You know, obviously don't work for free, but like, that's the mentality you have to have. Like I did a ton of stuff that I wasn't paid for just because I wanted to make myself more valuable. The more you do, the more valuable you are, the more leverage you have when you say like, hey, I want to raise or I'm going to go somewhere else. Because then they're like, oh shit, Matej does that and that and that and that and that. So we have to replace all that if he goes like,
Yeah.
You just have to build the leverage, you know?
Yeah. I was watching or listening to like a podcast the other day, and they said something along those lines of, someone asked a question. It was like a Q&A podcast, and they asked like, with the world where it is right now, like everyone getting laid off and the economy and blah, blah, how do you make it so that you have a less likelihood of getting let go? And he said the very, very same thing. It's like, do so much stuff that you make yourself irreplaceable, and like it's a massive headache if they have to do that. Right?
Yeah.
More often than not, it's like the things that you do are making such a big impact that they're just like, I'm not gonna let go of this guy. Like that's insane.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Survivor?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning of the game, they don't let dude, if you can like fish and you can like fucking make a shelter and shit, like, dude, you get to stick around for a while. You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy.
You just got to be that guy.
Yeah. So what was the transition, I guess, after that point? So you were a closer. How long were you a closer? And then when did you...
Yeah, so I was a setter for about 8 months. And then by month 11, because I started right in January. So by November, I hit my first 10K month as a closer. And I was pretty hyped about that. And then I was a closer for another, probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. I'd say like 6 months or so. And then I started doing this like closer / setter manager hybrid role, where I would like just basically train the setters that were on the team, make sure that they can get better, help them find like their workflow and all that kind of stuff while also closing deals. And then I did that for like 2 months. And then I've transitioned full time into like a setter manager role, which is kind of cool because like now I don't have to take calls anymore. Just wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's the pull to that. So I want to take a step back and almost explain this to people too, because some people might not know anything that we're talking about.
Sure.
Within this podcast, we talk a lot about the appointment setters and the closers. And the appointment setters obviously are the ones, they get the inbound calls, whether it's through Facebook, through forums, whatever. They are then like messaging the actual prospect or getting on a call with them, and they're setting it for the closer. That's all we really talked about at this point. The role that Matej has jumped into is he now is able to, like, you need managers within those, right? When when a team has, more setters, right? You can't just have a bunch of setters just kind of running around and doing their own thing. You got to have someone that kind of manages that. So that's where Matej's jumped into. So now what he does is, instead of getting on calls all day long and trying to close them or, trying to set appointments or anything like that, he's managing the setters to make sure that they're doing their thing. And that's kind of the breakdown of that. So, I guess what made you make the decision to, I wasn't just the fact that like you didn't have to take calls. Is that like the main reason you did that, or like, was there any other reasons?
I don't know. I like taking calls. Calls are fun. I'll still hop on sales calls if there's a closer running behind and like the setter needs somebody to jump on, I'll hop on. It's fun. So I enjoy calls. I think for me, it's just sort of like the scalability of it. To be honest, like being a closer is awesome. And it's a really cool because you have a lot of like balance and you can set your schedule up and all this other stuff and you can make a ton of money. And it's directly performance related, which is cool because you feel like you have a lot of control over your income. When I became a setter lead, dude, one of the things that stressed me out the most is like, I could like see what was going on. I could see the problems, but I felt like I was just watching the Titanic go towards an iceberg. And I'm like standing on a different iceberg and I'm like, yo, turn the boat, turn the boat. But like the boat's just fucking going, So you do get like maybe like a sense of a lack of control when your income is kind of determined by like the other people and like them doing what you tell them to do. So that was kind of stressful. And in hindsight, wasn't part of my equation. Didn't think about that. Would still do it again. But no, for me, it was more just like the scalability of it. I felt like I could probably take it further and I could develop a new skill set that I don't already have. Like it's real, like leadership management, not something I already really had. And so I thought, hey, if I can develop a new skill set, again, I can become more valuable and I can open up to new opportunities, new doors in the future. So, because I know I can sell, I know I can set. So now like, let's learn how to lead.
Taking like the next, like that next step. I think one of the things I'm curious with you as well is, you know, anyone that's listening to this that, you know, some people might not know about closing, but then there's also a lot of people from just that are in RCA that, you know, that listen to this too. Do you have any like main things? Let's say you're talking to a new setter, right? Someone that's just coming on an offer. Is there any like main, call it tips or like things that someone should look out for to like crush it right away in their offer? Like, I mean, you're managing setters. So like, what do you usually tell someone anyone on the team that,
dude, honestly, for new people, they just need to like work. They just need to grind. Like, especially with setters, it's all about like most setters come with not a lot of experience. And so if you're coming onto a new offer with not a lot of experience, you have to get experience. And the only way you get experience is by doing the damn thing. And so I have a lot of setters that come through that like, they overanalyze everything. They try to be perfect. They try to like do it this way, that way, do it the right thing, try new stuff. But really like all I need you to do is like get on the phone with people. If your number one goal is like, how can I talk to the most people possible today? And then set everybody. Dude, even if you feel like they're not qualified, just set them. And the reason is this. When you first start, you don't know who's qualified. You just don't have enough data for your radar to be any good. And so like if you play God and you say like, oh, I don't know if this person is a good to set. Like obviously there's people that are like really obvious, you know what I mean? Like living in a van down by the river, like don't set that guy, you know? But other people, you know, that are kind of like, I don't know, maybe, probably not, just set them. Because you'll be surprised at how many of those people like find a way to make it work and close. And then like, if maybe your intuition is right and you get feedback from the closer, like, hey, that was a terrible call. Why would you put them on my calendar? And you can be like, hey, Matej told me to set people. That's kind of what I was thinking. Noted. Right? And now that's like, boom, 1 point of data. And the more points of data you get, the more feedback you get from the closers on all of your sets, the more you can start to like hone in your radar on like, who's a good set, who's a bad set. But if you try to do that too early without good data points, what ends up happening is you disqualify freaking everybody. And then you have no sets, so you get no shows and you get no closes and you get let go. So like, I would rather you communicate with the closers and be like, hey, the first couple, like this first week, I'm just going to basically set everybody that I'm on the fence about. Can you please give me lots of feedback so that I can like really gain an understanding of who's a good set, who's a bad set?
Yeah.
You know? And then from there, you can adjust.
Yeah. And one other thing too, that I would even add to that, that's like a huge like internal motivation is because you talked about like, you know, if you don't do the things you need to do and you don't get sets and you get let go. But I think more importantly than that too is like they don't get the positive association of like them getting sets.
Yeah, you don't have any momentum.
Yeah, and like if you're a brand new setter, it's like that's when you know, one of the key like lag metrics is sets. You got to also remember that a good lead indicator is the amount of outbound calls that you're doing, the conversations that you're having, right? So you know, I think a lot of people have to remember that a lot of just getting good, and it's not even just setting, it's literally anything. It's like you got to do it a bunch of times to get really good at it. So could you maybe pinpoint like one or two of the biggest mistakes that you see setters make when
biggest mistakes, especially when they're starting off, way over analyzing. Like they just, like I said, they try to find the best, most accurate way to do things. It's like, I just want you to do things. Okay. Just do it. Just pick up the phone, jump in the deep end. You know what I mean? People learn when you fail. You don't learn shit when you do well. You learn from when you make mistakes. You know, if you look at like any major learning lesson and that's happened in your life, it's probably on the back of some sort of like big failure or like mess up. And so like, don't be scared to fail. That'd be the first thing. Like the biggest mistake is people are so scared to fail, so scared to get let go off the offer that they like don't do anything. It's like, don't be scared to fail. And then a second big mistake that people do, it's like they overcomplicate the process. Like with setting, all you got to do is you got to figure out like, what's your problem? What have you tried to fix it? What do you really want? And then if like you can actually help them get to where they're going, you tell them that and why you think that. And then you suggest a call with the closer. Like, that's basically it. It's like not that hard. Obviously, there are specific questions you can ask to uncover those details, but at the end of the day, it's what's your problem? What have you tried to fix it? What do you really want? If I can help you, let me tell you about it. Like, that's it. Yeah. And so everybody always like overcomplicates. Like, what's my specific tonality on this one particular question supposed to be like? It's like, dude, how would you say it in real life? And that's how you should say it on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing different. And I think one thing to add to that too, I mean, it's all the overthinking part of it, is when I had my agency, and we had one point we had like 2 setters. And I think a huge thing that I saw that they made the mistake on was trying to be the closer, right? Just giving way too much detail and like try to like, sell the offer when, what I always tell new appointment setters, people that I've talked to, it's like, you shouldn't be don't sell the offer, sell the next call, right? Why, like, what can you say to them to help them understand that like the call itself is going to be beneficial, agnostic if they decide to move forward or not, or they want to know about the offer? Because what happens is people start to, like, the more that you complicate it, the more the other person's going to complicate it, and they're going to have 100%. More questions, and then they get into this place in this limbo period of, because they have so much information, then they just get discouraged and like, well, like, I don't know if I want to talk to them because it sounds complicated and whatever. It's like you said, if they just ask them, where are they now? Where do they want to be? What's holding them back? What have they like tried to do in the past to fix it? Like, that's all you need. Just at the next.
Well, dude, that's the thing too. It's like, a lot of the time, if you give too much information on a setting call, it's like you're actually doing the prospect a disservice, because they don't have all the specifics, but they have enough to feel like they know everything. And so they're going to make a decision on whether or not this is what they're looking for before they even get on a call with the closer and find out what it actually looks like, because they think they know, but they really have no idea. And so you do them a massive disservice by giving too much information. And so I'll tell people all the time, dude, if people have questions, leverage that as a reason for them to get on the next call.
Yeah, that's huge.
Right? But how does it all work? What are all the specifics? Honestly, man, everybody's path looks a little bit different. So you should probably talk to John, because he'll be able to put together like a customized path for you specifically and answer all your questions. Ta-da!
Exactly.
Got it.
And it's funny because that, like, even just hearing you say that, it's, I was doing a call with Cole the other day, and it's like, that's his exact line too, for pretty much anything. It's just like, it's something. I remember when I used to do like setting calls, I would almost like act dumb. Like I legitimately didn't know the answer, because you don't got to answer a question they don't know the answer to, right? It's just, you default it to be like, hey, like, honestly, man, like, I'm not 100% sure on the answer to that question, but, if you have a conversation with John, he'll be able to break it down step by step for you of exactly what's going to look like for you, right? And it's like, another part of it is confidence and conviction of like, we've done this a million times, so, go out and do it a million times and you'll be able to talk like Matej. So,
dude, I pretended I was Cole Gordon for the first like 6 months. Well, I didn't call myself Cole Gordon, but like I borrowed all of his experiences and his tone out, his energy, because like I would literally be getting on calls with business owners that weighed way more money than I did, and like trying to figure out what their problem is with their business. I'm like talking to them like I know something about it. Like, I don't know, dude. And so like I just had to like embody Cole. Like I was like, what would WWCGD, like what would Cole Gordon do? And then I would like say stupid shit, and I would literally think to myself like, damn, would Cole say that? Probably not. Okay, I shouldn't say that next time, And that's how I got better. I was just like, how do I be Cole?
Yeah, we should get a shirt made that just says like WWC
100%. I would be so. I would
put it on the
with his face, like the animation. Those animation things we have. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to put that as an idea. Actually, a book. Have you read this? I'm sure you probably have.
Yeah, 100%. I have it.
Oh yeah, the yellow. Yeah, it's literally around that exact same concept of, a lot of times when you first start, is you don't have the confidence and you don't have the conviction. You don't know a lot of stuff. So it's like, how can you, what's this guy's name? Todd Herman, I think? Yeah, Todd Herman. It's just like, how do you get into that state of you are somebody else, right? And being able to leverage and pull that experience from other people. And that's also the cool thing about remote closing in general, is because you're not you don't actually own the business, you just get to pull from the case studies and the testimonials and really have that conviction of being able to know that you can do what you say that you can do. So that leads me to another question that you talked about earlier. I want to talk to anyone that's in like traditional sales. So real estate, mortgage, insurance, medical sales, like stuff like that. Because you were in insurance sales. What would you say to someone that is like kind of on that fence of like, okay, I've heard about this remote closing thing or the high ticket industry and I'm doing insurance. Like, what are some of the benefits that you've seen making the transition from one to the other?
The thing I like the most about selling in this environment is that like all the heavy lifting was done for me. You know what I mean? Like, because I have setters who are vetting out the leads and everything beforehand, it means that everybody I talk to is already like 50% of the way there. And so like, yeah, what I'm doing is selling, but it's not really, because all I'm trying to find out is like, where are you at now? Where do you want to go? And like, why haven't you been able to get there on your own? And then I get to basically find out why that's important to them, and then just hold up a mirror at the end of the call and be like, who do you want to be, dude? You know? And so it's a lot of fun because it's all transformational. Like all the offers in this space are transformational, which means the client is here, they really want to get here, but they can't do it on their own. And so if you can be that catalyst, that bridge that like helps them to do it, it's freaking awesome. Because people are always scared as shit to like make a big investment in themselves, which like they should be. If they haven't been able to get where they want to go in the past, why should they believe in themselves to get where they want to go now? You know? And they just need people in their corner, to be honest, a lot of the time. And so I love being like people's cheerleaders and like holding them accountable to the person that they said they want to be and like push them to take action instead of just like watching life pass them by like they have done all the way up until this point, you know? And so it's a ton of fun. And then what's the even cooler about it is when people message you like 4, 5, 6 months later, and they're like, hey, I just wanted to thank you for like pushing me to take action and like invest in myself. Like I had this one guy that messaged me. I tell this story all the time. Some guy from, can't remember the country now. Like I should probably ask him. It's a South American country. Flew his mom out for Christmas. He was living in the States. Flew his mom out for Christmas, and he hadn't seen her in years. And he messaged me like a couple days before Christmas. I was literally shopping in like a toy store. And he's like, dude, I just want to let you know, like I flew my mom out for Christmas. I haven't seen her in years. Thank you so much. And like, I literally started crying like a baby.
I got chilled, bro.
This like in the middle of this toy store a couple days before Christmas, you know? And so like, what other fucking offer are people going to thank you for making them spend like 10K on themselves? Like, get out of here. Doesn't exist.
Exactly. Dude, it's funny. One of our new video editors, Ethan, he was editing actually I haven't shown it to you. I'll show you after we record, but it's pretty hype. It's basically an RCA event like breakdown. And I gave him a ton of footage to just kind of go through and you know put together something cool. By the way, Ethan, if you're listening to this, like completely exceeded my expectations. And but one of he sent me this message like towards the end of the event. It was just a room of literally 150 remote closers, you know, people that are doing really well or they're just getting started. And there was a part at the end of day 2 where literally it was just a sharing session. And like when I tell you, I was like just holding this camera, shaky as shit, like crying, like hearing these stories was insane. Because like, you know, when you hear people share what the impact that even if you had like a small like you know, a small piece of that, right? They did the work at the end of the day, but when they come back and they say like, yo, you literally changed my life. Like I'm able to do blah, 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 blah now. It's a crazy, crazy feeling. So
yeah, dude. And it doesn't just impact them. It impacts all the people that they're around. And then that impacts all the people that they're around. And it becomes this like cool spider web of like impact. And that's how I like to think about it, dude. When I was selling insurance, I hated it because like I knew you could buy insurance from somebody else cheaper. And other than that, like insurance is all the same, in my opinion, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I had like a very low amount of conviction. Plus I'm talking about people dying all day long. Like, no, thanks. You know, it's not fun.
Exactly.
And so like shifting into this industry has just been like game changer.
Yeah, man. It's so huge. Like you almost have to kind of like artificially create this environment for that other person. When you're in like insurance, for example, you have to like artificially create this like fear and this negativity for them to buy, right? I was literally making an ad about this earlier too. This was like back in 2017. I sold solar door to door for like a month, and it was terrible. I hated knocking on doors, but you know, granted, I did learn a lot from knocking on doors and getting doors slammed in your face, you know, getting used to rejection. But it's like in the whole sales, like solar sales process, is you're creating this thing of like you can save money. but it's like they got to own the house for 25 years for them to even realize any of the savings, right? They just front loading a lot of that loan payment. So it's like that's the saving money over a 25-year period is what you would have to say to yourself to give you a little bit of conviction to like go in and make the sale, as opposed to again it's like you wake up every single day. Like I don't know about you, dude, but like I'm sure it's the same. I wake up every day like so freaking excited to make videos and like talk to people and scroll through school, and like there's no other feeling knowing that something that I could do today could very much impact somebody today. And that's
it's super cool, man. And it's all up to them, which is nice.
Yep.
It's all up to you, dude. Whoever's listening this.
Yep.
You person listening.
You have
all the power. It's up to you. You just gotta do it. You gotta find the right boat, and then you gotta just execute. That's it. It's easy.
Yeah, dude. I want to be respectful of your time because I know we have probably 2 minutes here. So we'll bring you on for another episode for a part 2. I think people will love it. Hear the second iteration of the Mateys of the world. So what I usually do here at the end is I want you to think of, I'll give you like 25 seconds while I do a little outro. Think of like one of the biggest tips or pieces of advice that you give to someone either thinking about jumping into, remote sales, or someone that's already in it that they could maybe pull out of this episode as like a golden nugget, we'll say. Think about that, and I'll do this real quick. So if you've been listening at this point, we've been talking for, 55 minutes. One of the longer episodes, I'll say, which is good. It means we got trapped in the conversation. But if you're listening up to this point, you're at least somewhat interested in remote closing and remote sales or even appointment setting. So down below, the first link, whether you're in the podcast app or the YouTube channel, it's going to be a link to a quick video. Our business partners, Cole Gordon, we put together a video that basically goes over the entire process of what remote closing is, the steps that you can take to get started within the industry. And then towards the end of it, if you're like, hey, like this is cool and I want to take, that next step into, improving my life and finances and everything that comes with that, there's an option to chat with us, maybe even Matej, someone on the team, and to bring you to that next step. But again, there's no obligation for any of that. It really just is a video. You can watch it, step away, and as long as you're taking some notes, you can get some pretty good stuff to just go out there and implement yourself. So all that being said, again, down in the YouTube channel, first link, and as well as the podcast app. So hopefully it gave you enough time. What you got?
I mean, I don't know, man. You kind of put me on.
Dude, I gave you so much time.
You told me to think about this. No, okay, I got one. This is the biggest thing. I tell this to everybody. At the end of the day, like, if you don't bet on yourself, like, nobody else should. And so I'm not saying go and do remote closing. I'm not saying go and do anything in particular. What I am saying is when you feel in your gut that like you have an opportunity in front of you that could literally get you what you actually want, the only person you're doing a disservice by not taking action is yourself. Because how you show up for yourself is how you show up for everybody. So bet on yourself. Be in your own corner. That's what I would say. That's my big advice.
Love it, man. All right, y'all. Once again, those of you that are hanging out, make sure to click the links down below. Dude, thank you so much for jumping on here. Like I said, I think we'll definitely have another episode. We'll maybe do an in-person at the event next month. We'll have to batch it out.
That'd be sick. We'll do the Cabo.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you love this episode, then make sure to leave a like down below. You can't do a heart. YouTube only has likes. So leave a like, leave a comment, maybe one of your biggest takeaways. And that being said, Aaron here from the Remote Closing Academy podcast. See you guys in the next one. Talk soon.
Giddy up.